We will continue to stand with the NAACP in encouraging athletes in our community to look elsewhere until these racially gerrymandered maps in the South are reversed, buried in the ground, never to rise again.
So they want to take away our right to vote? Okay. We're going to take away their right to make money and win football games off of our backs. We're going to boycott the SEC. We're going to stop watching football games. We're going to encourage talented black D1 and D2 athletes to transfer out of those schools, and we're going to hit them where it hurts, in their pockets.
All right, what about them little bald-headed bitches right there?
Several states' subsequent efforts to redraw their congressional maps to remove majority black districts. The organization, the NAACP, has pointed to 8 states. I'll list them for you: Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, South Carolina, Texas, and Georgia. Opinion columnist for the Los Angeles Times, LZ Granderson, joins me now. LZ, let me ask you about this. How does this all land with you in terms of asking athletes, either at the high school level or at the college level, to take up this mantle and boycott first and most visibly?
All right, these right here, these are the PAWNS.
Second, I mean, this is history. This is not new. This is what young people have always done at the height of every social rights or social justice movement. And this is exactly part of that extension of that. Young people being asked to step up and to try to make their voices heard in matters of importance. If you think about 1968, college athletes were asked to boycott the Olympics in response to racial injustice. So as I said, this is not new for us as a nation.
They like the soldiers.
NAACP this morning, in solidarity with the CBC, we are calling on athletes who are coming out of high school not to attend any state-funded schools of states that have moved to minimize our right to vote, to minimize our ability to elect candidates of our choice, and states that are seeking to create a sharecropping reality. Whether that state be Missouri or Mississippi, whether that state is South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, or Florida. 55% of all African Americans live in the former Confederate South. But the 55% of us who live in the former Confederate South, we will not tolerate a Confederate mentality.
And they like the front lines. They be out in the field.
I'm not saying it's a great idea or it's not a great idea. I'm just pointing out it is young people who change the world.
But if there's structure, though, don't you think that this could possibly work? Because we're talking about just the state schools, Whoopi. We're not talking about the SEC.
I have about 2 Democrat bones left in my body, and maybe at the end of this year I won't have any left. We have heard all kinds of articles about how there aren't enough black men in college, that black men are not catching up with black women, that black women are running circles around black men, that most of the college campuses have 4 or 5 women to every man on campus, and it's maybe even worse for black men. And the one idea for the Congressional Black Caucus and the NAACP is to tell fewer black men to go to college to make some kind of point to the SEC. Explain that rationale to me. This is the best idea that the Congressional Black Caucus has to deal with something that they should be dealing with as their jobs, especially considering most of them are already millionaires. You're telling young black men to not get money and not go to college? Unbelievable.
We believe that the silence of these institutions is complicity. That's right. And we will not stand for it. This is an unprecedented moment featuring an unprecedented attack on black political representation, and therefore it requires an unprecedented response. We will continue to stand with the NAACP in encouraging athletes in our community to look elsewhere until these racially gerrymandered maps in the South are reversed, buried in the ground, never to rise again.
So how do you get to be the king? See, the king, stay the king.
I'm just going to ask a couple of just simple questions. Have we heard any members of the Congressional Black Caucus say that they're going to forfeit their salary so that they are in solidarity with the young men that are sacrificing something? Have you heard any of the other students on campus saying that they're going to withdraw from school, that they're going to transfer to other schools because they don't want to be giving their money to these state schools? Have you heard anyone else announce the sacrifices they're going to make in solidarity with these young men who are expected to carry the movement? No, you have not.
See the king, stay the king.
And so for some of these young men, it's very likely that what's being asked of them is that they sacrifice any, future that sees them playing at an elite level and being able to secure life-changing resources for their families. And the question is this a sound strategy? I relate it to John Henryism in the sense that these young men are supposed to shoulder this silently in commitment to a movement that is, usually one that supports the Democrats, supports the left via the NAACP.
See the king, stay the king.
I think that there has to be strategy. I mean, athletes have been involved in protests and politics for a long time.
Yeah.
Remember the Olympics, and you had, John Carlos, and you had Muhammad Ali. But these were athletes that were established already. These college athletes stand to get a free education. They stand to make money because of the NIL now. And so I think it is asking a lot. But I think it's economic damage and economic harm has long time been a very effective tool in the civil rights movement.
Resistance has a price. Let me give you some history. They say,
yes, do.
Yeah, well, like teenagers, they're teenagers, and they're going to have to give up a lot. The Vietnam War was basically halted by teenagers.
Correct.
Because it was 17 and 18-year-old kids who were going to go into fight this crazy war that they were doing. So I'm not saying it's a great idea or it's not a great idea. I'm just pointing out it is young people who change the world.
When I say that the last two Democrat bones in my body are getting tested by these kinds of conversations, what I'm essentially saying is that the omissions in this kind of conversation, it makes me just wring my hair out. Why would you say teenagers were putting themselves at risk? It was not teenagers. It was teenage men and boys that were putting their lives at risk. Some of them were going to Canada. Some, like Muhammad Ali, went to jail in order to not go fight in the war. They had something on the line. I'm not saying that there weren't any young ladies in the protests that did not have things happen to them because some of the protests got quite out of hand. But what I'm saying is that men had something on the line. Essentially what you have here, where these football players are giving up essentially millions of dollars in opportunity in order to fight essentially the Congressional Black Caucus's fight. You're talking about millionaire lawmakers calling on people who have barely gotten their foot into the production door to say, hey guys, we need you guys to sacrifice again. And it's just infuriating. Where are the systems for these kids to say, if I destroy my life, my future earning capacity, who's going to set up something so that I'm going to have a soft landing? Do you hear any conversation about that? You do not. And why?
Pawns, man, in the game, they get capped quick.
Tell me exactly what you're trying to do here.
Yeah, the Out of Bounds campaign is more than sports. It's about power. It's about ownership. It's about accountability. Black athletes have helped build college athletics into a multi-billion-dollar industry, especially in football and basketball, as we pointed out here. Yet many of those same states are benefiting from Black talent, are actively working to weaken Black political representation and voting power. For generations, we know that Black athletes have carried the weight of college athletics on their backs. And this is a moment for us to realize that power we bring into those institutions can be used to protect our communities, our voices, and our future. Universities cannot continue to profit from Black talent, celebrate Black culture, and recruit Black students aggressively while remaining silent when those same students' rights are under attack.
You cannot ask Black athletes and families to risk scholarships, exposure, and future opportunities without a real strategy in place. Y'all, this NCAA initiative that they just came out with, thumbs down.
Why focus on the students? For example, I saw LSU on that list. There's no mention of players who play for the New Orleans Saints, for example, with the National Football League, or the University of Georgia was on that list. And in Georgia, you have the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA, or the Falcons in the NFL, the Braves in Major League Baseball. Why the students here? And what would you say to the Attorney General there in South Carolina, who says they are being used for political gain?
Pawns, man, in the game, they get capped quick.
If the goal was to pressure the SEC politically, where was the infrastructure, y'all? Where was the partnerships with other conferences, legal organizations, media networks, or universities willing to support these athletes? What I'm asking for is, why did we come out and say, hey, we're going to boycott the SEC, we're not going to go to the SEC, with no plan?
This is about ownership. As young Black athletes must recognize that their talents has value far beyond a field or a court. Their influence moves culture, economics, and yes, it moves politics. States cannot celebrate Black excellence on a Saturday while silencing Black communities on a Tuesday at the ballot box. Those same communities that produce these elite athletes are the communities fighting for fair representation, equitable schools, and a democratic process that works for us all. Out of bounds, this campaign is the redirection of that power. If Black talent can build these programs, Black talent as well can we can control how that accountability looks like.
We're going to take away their right to make money and win football games off of our backs. We're going to boycott the SEC. We're going to stop watching football games. We're going to encourage talented Black D1 and D2 athletes to transfer out of those schools, and we're going to hit them where it hurts, in their pockets. So that's the message I've been seeing all up and down my timeline this weekend. And
as someone who doesn't watch football, doesn't follow football, it's easy enough for me to say, yeah, I'll stop watching those football games. I never cared. Okay.
But will you do the same?
However, what I've been saying for years now is that neither party has particularly targeted Black men in any kind of constructive manner, has taken Black male interests seriously, and has prioritized Black male political interests. You know, we've been talking about the Black male political agenda since 2020, and we crafted them because most Black men could not tell you what their own political interests are as far as a demographic. They could talk to you about what will benefit the Black community. They could defer space to allow Black women to talk about what would benefit them as a demographic. But most Black men could not list for you a list of political ideas, right? Possibilities, policy ideas that would benefit them as a demographic, because we're not socialized to think of ourselves as a separate demographic. And here lies the crux of the argument. If we're focusing on the Black community as a whole, these kinds of arguments for Black male athletes to sacrifice potentially their futures for the sake of the political reinstitution of civil rights gains seems like an acceptable request. But the reason I shift from that is, as a Black male advocate and as one who looks at how Black men are treated, especially in regard to John Henryism, what I'm finding is the social sacrifice that these men are expected to make, one that sacrifices their future and their well-being from a community and a political party that ignores them, is a problem. It's a problem. And I actually think that them not doing so could be a larger message than not. Not necessarily to the Republicans per se, but actually to the Democrats who assume our votes. We know Black men are the second highest voting demographic in the Black community and the second highest across the board, across race, in terms of voting for Democrats. And yet, how often do we hear their considerations taken seriously? Black women are the foundation, the mothers of the movement, the foundation of the party, all these symbolic gestures that Democrats extend to Black women, although we could question how many of them result in tangible goods that the Black community benefits from policy-wise. But Black men aren't even mentioned. They're not mentioned at all. So to ask these young men to sacrifice their standing for a political entity, the Democratic Party, that doesn't take their votes seriously, doesn't identify what resources that they would extend to Black males, is a problem. And the two times we've seen them try to craft a Black male agenda, whether we're talking about Stacey Abrams in Atlanta or Kamala Harris in the last national election, all they basically did was pull out a bunch of resources that everybody has access to through the Democratic Party's platform. Nothing really specific for Black males to address their situation. I know we're not going to say that Black males suffer the same situation as everybody. Does everybody experience what Black males do? No. And because black males tend to be, tend to have the highest homicide rates, tend to have some of the lowest education rates, tend to have some of the most, extreme incarceration rates and voter disenfranchisement rates, you would think that there would be some kind of policies set forth to address the extreme context that many black males find themselves in. But there are none.
As always, salute to Dr. Tiesan Johnson. He is doing the Lord's work with the amount of videos he's putting out, and he's saying the quiet part out loud. The Democrat Party expects the black male vote without offering black men. And you can look at the statistics for how black men are affected by a variety of things going on in America, including false arrest. Why aren't the Democrats putting out specific programs to help black men? Instead, you're having a Democrat Party. You have people in the Congressional Black Caucus that are millionaires now telling young black men, don't go to certain schools, don't go to those colleges and make millions of dollars or make yourself generational wealth. Instead, sacrifice that so that I, as a lawmaker, can use that as leverage to make laws, which is what your job is in the first place. Why are lawmakers telling teenagers to forfeit something that they already have? Millions of dollars in social standing and prestige. Shouldn't it be the lawmakers that are making the laws and the young teenagers trying to find their way in this new economy to get whatever they can get out of it? It is diabolical in this environment to tell a young black man who has an opportunity to make millions of dollars, don't do that for the collective good of black people, when there are no systems, programs, anything set up to help those men if they stumble. Because we know when/if that man stumble, he's just going to be dusty. And no one will remember the sacrifice he made because they saw him as a pawn to be used. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you next video. Take care, guys.